Welcome, everybody. Looks like we are live, and welcome to our second episode of Conversations with the Council. For those of you who were not able to join us in our first episode a couple weeks ago, this is just a exciting new way that we're able to interact with our council while council meetings and work sessions. Specifically, council work sessions are taking a break right now, so we just thought that this would be a fun way to still be in contact with our council members while getting some helpful information from staff and directors. So I'm Jenny Bowersfeld, and I work for the City of Lacey Public Affairs Department. And I have the pleasure of being joined today by Councilmember Michael Stedman.
Hi, everybody.
And Councilmember Malcolm Miller.
Hello, everybody.
Our City Manager, Scott Spence.
How you doing?
And our Parks and Recreation Department Director, Jen Burbage.
Hey there.
And for those of you who are joining us on Zoom, there is a question and answer option down at the bottom of your screen. So please feel free to interact with some questions that you might have during our talk. And we will be addressing those questions at the end of our conversation. So today we thought it would be beneficial for our listeners to get a little more info on where we're at as a state and a city, more specifically with our Parks and Recreation Department, whether that be the status of our parks or our programming, especially coming into the summer with usually our Parks Department is just super busy planning events. So we wanted to provide a little information to you, give you the opportunity to ask some questions. And so we thought it would be helpful first to start out getting a little overview of, I know that there's a lot of information out there about Governor Inslee's kind of a 4-step approach to reopening the state. So we wanted to give a brief overview on that. So with that said, Michael, do you want to start out to kind of talking about the first couple stages, the stage that we're in, and then where we're headed as a state?
Sure. First of all, I think everybody like myself is very ecstatic that we're in phase 1 and look forward very much to phase 2. In this current phase with construction and other essential services opening up, it's welcoming and it's great news. Come May 5th, additional services like outdoor activities and auto and RV boat sales, curbside pickup orders for retailers, fishing and hunting, recreational stuff like that is get people more active and outdoors and living a little bit healthier lifestyle. Means we're all cooped up trying to do the best we can and be as responsible as we can for others and their safety and well-being. And in that phase 2, after the burden is lowered, and our healthcare system is ready. Its readiness is going good, and testing capabilities are able to handle the burdens and stuff. We'll be able to go into that next phase. Let's see here. Case. I'm stuck here for a second.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Michael, if I may, I just want to also mention in Governor Inslee, in this phased approach, he also mentioned too, and I think it's good for our citizens to hear that each phase is going to, there's going to be 3 weeks in between each phase. So while we are in phase 1, there are certain metrics and things that need to be met, and we need to see numbers going down. And this is going to be a data-driven decision instead of a date-driven decision. And I know that's tough for a lot of people. I'm one that's like, I just want a date. I want to know when, our world is going to open back up, but it's just really hard to be able to give a date to that. So once we start,
that's a big confusion. Everybody said it, people are saying it's vague, and we have to keep in mind of our, sensitive populations like the elderly and such.
Mm-hmm.
But, after a few weeks, it'll be determined and revisited, and possibly move into the second phase with outdoor activities and small groups, and retail, manufacturing, and more construction being phased in. That's a great thing, with our inventory of our housing being less than 3%, and the cost of houses. It only gets worse when you stop that construction, and so any and all construction is, especially when you're building houses, can only alleviate that and help matters. But I know the hair salons and the nail salons and those types of businesses are looking forward to opening back up, also with the restaurants and taverns at 50% or more in this phase 2, and then professional businesses and services also. We're all being affected drastically by this, but I think if we all take a step back and we can see light at the end of the tunnel, we do everything we can personally to be responsible for each other. I mean, this is a good way to get into the segment of why I look so scruffy. Is I decided to grow this out because it's a constant reminder. Though this COVID thing isn't affecting my family directly, it has impacted friends of mine. I had one friend, her and her brother lost their mom and dad in less than a month, and that was in Florida, and with this both the COVID, and it's sad, but it's a reality. That if we all take care of ourselves personally, wear a mask when we can, practice social distancing, use hand sanitizer, do all that stuff, and stay home as much as you possibly can, that we'll get through this with the least amount of people being affected.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's a good reminder, Jenny, just to talk about kind of where we are in terms of a state, in terms of COVID cases. Right now, we're just under 16,000. And if you want to compare that just to a month ago, it was about 8,400. And so it has doubled in really 30 days. To look at the positive side in terms of the COVID-19 issue is that luckily, at least in the last, I'd say a couple of weeks, the rate of new cases are at least typically below 2%.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're somewhat fortunate being in Thurston County. So far, we only have 116 cases. And so in comparison to say maybe Pierce or Snohomish or King, we happen to be in a better position than most. And some of that has to do with social distancing and also density, but that is something that is a positive in terms of where we currently live.
Absolutely. And I think people are getting antsy to start getting out and, going out to eat with their friends and family, and going to parks and, utilizing the amenities that they have. But I think, our leaders are afraid that if that happens too soon and too quickly, that the numbers are going to spike. And I think the last thing we all want is to see this to last longer than it needs to. So
I would say that, the last thing we want to do is waste the last 6 weeks to 8 weeks and have it really for nothing.
Right.
Everybody's sacrificing. I know my kids have turned into half house cleaners and pet groomers and stuff, like the rest of us in the household. So we'll look forward to those retail services and companies opening back up so we can get back to as normal as possible, as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Michael. Malcolm, do you want to speak a little bit into what the later stages of this is going to look like?
Yeah, absolutely.
3 and 4.
As we get into, phases 1 and 2 are, still, continue to stay home and stay healthy phases with, gatherings of 5 people or less starting in phase 2. As we get into phase 3, those gathering sizes are going to increase from 5 to 50. And so we'll be able to gather in larger groups some of the things that are going to be required and asked of us during phase 3 is to resume, non-essential travel. And so, if you don't have to go there, don't. Outdoor groups, 50 people or fewer. So that's a big jump. A lot of things are going to open up in phase 3, including, gyms. That's going to be really nice to be able to go back to the gym.
Right.
Professional sports, but without audience participation. Restaurants and taverns at less than 75% capacity, with table sizes of no larger than 10 people at a table. And so, as this rolls out, you can see that, it's well, obviously it's a phased approach, but it's a very careful phased approach. Hey, let's get back together, but in small numbers. Theaters will be open, but they'll be at 50% or less capacity. So those guys will be back in the market, which will be nice. Customer-facing government services are supposed to be opening back up in phase 3. And again, it's important to remember that each of these phases has about 3 weeks in it, but in order to get to the next phase, there's certain criteria and metric that we have to meet during the phase that we're in order to get to that next phase. So each one could be extended slightly if we don't reach some of those numbers. But again, customer-facing government services in phase 3, which is at least 6 weeks out from the beginning of phase 1. Scott, do you want to chime in on what we might be doing during the phase 3 for customer-facing government services? Are we going to be able to react to that?
Yeah, thanks for that. So we're in phase 3, as Councilmember Miller stated, and much like the retail and other businesses, it's not going to look like pre-COVID-19. We're not going to have all doors open. We're probably not going to be at normal hours. There's a good expectation that the public is going to have limited hours and maybe even limited days, even in phase 3. We're going to be living in a 6-foot world, probably for the foreseeable future. And so we need to do everything we can, just like other places that are now currently open, to promote social distancing. And so we're going to have to tailor operations when we serve the public to ensure that we can maintain that 6-foot distancing. Already, City Hall, if you walked into the building today, we have plexiglass shields at the front counters. We have social distancing markers. Employees will be walking with masks if they're in public areas, those where you can't avoid the 6 feet. And so that's going to be the world that we're going to be probably living in, even in phase 3.
Thank you. So on another note, other things that are going to be opening up are like libraries and museums. All the business activity that we were used to having is supposed to be opening back up in phase 3, except for nightclubs and events with no more than 50 people. And so phase 3 is probably the most exciting phase so far. But, it's important to remember that one of the reasons why this is happening is because, we still have a large at-risk community out there. Whether you know it or not, Lacey is somewhere a little over 25% senior citizens in our citizenship here. So a lot of people like to come to live to Lacey and in their later years in life. And some of this is going to be very helpful for that demographic. Phase 4 is a full return to public interactions with appropriate physical distancing. So by that time, let's see, phase 1, 3, 6, 9, that's 9 weeks out, a little over 2 months. It'll be the heat of the summer, which will be nice. It'll be warm outside. And as you guys know that, Lacey's parks are open. Some of the gates you'll see are closed still, so you won't be able to drive in, but the foot traffic going into the park can resume. Again, appropriate social distancing all throughout that. But as we get to phase 4 in about a little over 2 months, we should see some sense of normal returning, which will be really nice to see. Yeah,
thank you, Malcolm. And, like Scott said, I think that we are going to be living at this kind of 6-foot world for a long time. I really probably through the year. Until there is a real grasp on immunization for this, I can see face masks and keeping, a 6-foot distance from others around you, just a requirement for the unseeable future. But we do have Jen Burbage with us today. Jen, thank you so much for being here. And like Malcolm spoke about the parks, we have been getting a lot of inquiries from our citizens because I think that they're hearing that our parks are open, but then maybe if they go to visit a park, they'll see that the gates are closed. So we thought that it would be appropriate to have you on to discuss kind of the status of our parks, what our intention really is for our residents and how they can utilize our parks. And then also maybe a little later get into some of the programming and some of those bigger events that I know our citizens really look forward to. And you can speak to some of that. So do you want to hop in and just talk about a little bit about parks for a bit?
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. Obviously, things look significantly different than normal right now in the parks and recreation world. And Jenny had mentioned some of the changes with the parks, and we are increasing our signage. So that's going to be really helpful to let people know what's going on. But we'll start with the open spaces. So we're kind of the exact opposite message that we usually have, which is come to the parks, stay and play. But right now we are just asking people to come to the parks, but keep moving. Just run, walk, or bike through the park and recreate responsibly with some new temporary rules. So as Councilmember Miller mentioned, all the parks and trails are open. Parking lots are open at 4 of our locations, which is Wonderwood Park, Wanchers Park, Pullman Park, and Meridian Park. As he also mentioned, some of the lots are going to remain closed for a little while. We'd like to get them all to a point to where they're open, but it's going to have to happen in phases. So the lots will remain closed at the Rack, Rainier Vista, Woodland Creek, and Long Lake. And what this does is helps us avoid regional and group draw. We've already had issues, for example, with unauthorized sports practices. So opening these gates intensifies that issue. So for now, we're going to go ahead and leave those closed. Like I said, keep moving. Message is that crowded parks lead to closed parks. So we're really asking everybody just to do their part with that. And on that same note, go before you go. So the restrooms are currently locked. With this public health crisis, it's really challenging to keep up with the supplies and cleaning necessary. And so on the same note of keeping moving, there's less of a need to use those restroom facilities if you're just kind of passing through the park and using it passively, really. So the group amenities, to clarify, are closed within the parks. And again, that's to keep those groups from gathering. So that would include playgrounds, courts, the skate park, picnic shelters, etc. And we have had signage and caution tape up around some of these, especially the playgrounds, but sometimes those caution tapes and signage gets pulled down. And so just really in our social media and website, and of course means such as this, getting the word out to really just stay off of those group amenities. It does include tennis and pickleball. We know this is challenging, but it is a temporary measure until we can get to another phase. Yes.
We have a lot of areas of the city that are unincorporated. Just a quick reminder to let people know that the county trails are open as well.
That's correct. Thurston County has opened their parks and trails, and they have opened the dog park as well.
Hey, Jen, can I interject for just a second?
Sure.
So we ask that our residents, use our parks responsibly. So I don't know if you want to speak to, because I know that we get some emails and things saying, I saw kids playing on the playground, or, is there enforcement? Or I know that we don't have the staff available right now to, enforce these rules at our parks. So do you want to speak a little bit to that? Just, we're really looking to ask our residents to abide by our rules and use the parks responsibly.
Yes, thanks, Jenny, for pointing that out. Yeah, hashtag recreate responsibly. That's kind of the Olympia, Lacey, and Tumwater Parks departments are trying to get that message out there. And like I said, we are going to be putting additional signage up. But really, I was on watching the Board of County Commissioners meeting the other day, and Dr. Yu was speaking from the Thurston County Health Department. And she was talking about parks and just saying how important it is for parents to supervise their kids in the park, especially now. I mean, always, yes, but particularly now when these amenities are closed. And like I said before, it's just a pass-through type of a situation, passive use. But I will go over the temporary rules that we have posted. And so the very first and most important one is to stay home if you're sick. And then also just do outdoor activities with your immediate household only at this time. And then, as a lot of people on this call have mentioned, the 6-foot distancing. So if you encounter someone in the park, just that's not your family member, stay the 6 feet away. Bring your own face covering and hand sanitizer in case you need those items. Take all the waste and belongings with you. Pack it in, pack it out. You've all heard that saying before. So we're really asking for people's cooperation, like Jenny had mentioned, with compliance of the rules. And yeah, we don't have a real good way of enforcing. And so again, it's just going to take everybody to do their part. And hopefully the parks can remain open. Like I said, if they're really crowded, then it's possible that they could get closed.
Right.
So remember, gatherings of any size are not allowed. So it's easiest if you just think of it in terms of, is it allowed indoors? Well, no, a group gathering is not allowed indoors. So it also is not allowed outdoors at this time. So, but please use the parks. I mean, we want everybody to, get out with their families, go to your closest park. And it's really always important to get outside, for wellness opportunities, but especially during this public health crisis, it's going to be really important for people to get exercise. And Dr. Yu did speak about that as well, just the other day, about how important it is to have that, mental clarity and wellness and exercise and just an outlet.
Yeah, and Jen, you and I talked about this yesterday or the other day, but we've had a couple emails come through asking about our Woodland Creek Frisbee golf course. And so just to let our citizens know, if that is something that you enjoy doing, you can certainly walk to the park or ride your bike and utilize the golf, Frisbee golf course, which is open, but again, maintaining the social distancing standards that we ask, using a lot of hand sanitizer, maybe using some Clorox wipes and wiping down the chains on the goals. Is that what they're called? Goals?
The baskets.
Baskets?
It is
on the baskets. I'm not a big Frisbee golfer, but I have been on the course once.
That's okay.
So that's a good way for people to get out and walk around and enjoy the outside and do something fun and active.
Yeah, and that one, that's an easy way to passively use the park because you're keeping moving and you're able to socially distance from one another. So good point. And I have to point out, it's disc golf, not Frisbee golf.
Oh, and another strike.
That's okay.
Thank you.
I would say we are fortunate in Lacey to have a great park system that most of us are at least within a very short drive or even a walk of a park. And that's a credit to, future city councils and staff and park professionals like Jen. Because quite frankly, as mentioned earlier, we do need a retreat from COVID-19, and going out in the outdoors and having those trails and parks and other amenities is a real asset during this time. So this is an opportunity to kind of engage in a park system in a different way.
Right.
Yeah, so please, just the message is please use the parks, but do so responsibly. Great.
Thank you. Do you want to touch base on a couple of the different programs and things that would be coming up that maybe the data, the scheduling has changed a little bit, and maybe some other things that Parks is offering?
Yes, absolutely. I wanted to talk about online opportunities next, and then I'll get to the Parks and Rec programs, but it's really been important for our staff to stay connected with the community. So that's something that is very important normally, but especially during this time when programs haven't been able to run. And so our staff has created a free online program. It's called Isolation. And it provides ideas and examples of fun activities you can do at home with your family. So I believe we have a clip to show.
We do. We will run that now.
Oh, hey guys! Jordy here with Lacey Parks and Recreation. During this time of quarantine and isolation, we understand it can be hard to come up with ideas to do with your friends and family inside your own homes. That's why we at Lacey Parks and Recreation want to bring the ideas to you. We call it Isolation. Get it? Over the next few weeks, we're going to be posting videos of different things that you can do at your home, like crafts, sports, fitness, maybe even some games. It's gonna be fun. We hope you tune in, and we hope that you're well. Hey guys, I'm here to show you how you can make a traditional game of catch a little more exciting. All you're gonna need is a person to play catch with, a ball, and a glove. Start by warming up by just tossing the ball back and forth. Hopefully they catch it. When you're scoring in this game, think of it as 2 squares. The first square is from your chest to your belly button, the center of your body. That's going to be worth 2 points. If the ball hits in the outside square, from your shoulders down to your hips and across, that's worth 1 point. Anything outside of that, above your neck or below your hips, 0 points. So throw back and forth with your partner, scoring as you go, and see who can hit 20 first. 1 point. 2 points. No points. Easy as that. Hope you have fun, and we will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.
Isn't that great?
Great.
I love that.
Innovative and creative.
So that's one of the shorter episodes. There are several to watch, and they just vary in length, but there's a lot of really good ideas. So yeah, the staff has really done well pivoting, and they're actually looking into some virtual programming right now. So be on the lookout. I'm excited to announce one of the things they're working on is a Magic Tricks and Secrets live. It's going to be by registration only, and that'll run on Fridays in May, starting May 15th. And so that'll be a sign-up program that will be offered via Zoom. So that's one of the examples of something that's coming up soon. We'll be posting that information on our website as soon as we have that all available and done. So the next thing I wanted to touch on real quick before I get to programming is the 3rd of July celebration that typically takes place at Rainier Vista Park. So unfortunately, we did have to cancel that event for this year, but we're really excited to bring it back next year, even better than ever. And I want to take a quick opportunity to thank 2 of our sponsors, Capital Development Company, for allowing us to keep their sponsorship dollars to be able to secure the fireworks contract for next year. And then Twin Star Credit Union, they actually reallocated a portion of their sponsorship dollars to the North Thurston Public Schools Youth and Family Resource Center.
Oh, great.
Which was really great in this time of need. So we really wanted to thank our sponsors for your support of the Lacey community. So yeah, lastly, touching on the Parks and Rec programs, facilities, and rentals, we have been getting a lot of questions about those, and I'm so glad the council members were able to explain the governor's phases, because that really sets the framework for when your community activities actually can resume, like we touched on. So as Jenny had explained, moving from phase to phase is data driven, not date driven, and that is difficult, not having exact dates, but we do know, like council member Stedman pointed out, we are in phase 1 now, which Parks and Trails are open. Staff are busy preparing summer programs with new parameters for our new world that we talked about, our 6-foot
right.
world that we're going to be in, that Jenny and Scott both pointed out. So social distancing, limits on group sizes at our programs, and then like what type of safety gear will be needed. So staff are really busy working on that for summer programming and pivoting. We are still currently determining the status for Long Lake Beach and also our swim lessons programs. We just need some more information at this point, and we should have more info soon. And again, we'll be updating the website and pushing information out on social media as soon as we know more. But once we move to phase 2, we will be able to start taking summer registration. And that's the point at which outdoor recreation will be involving fewer than 5 people outside your own household. So that'll be a step closer to be able to offering programming. But really phase 3, like Councilmember Miller pointed out, that's really the point at which a lot of these group activities will be opening back up. So we can have recreational and sports activities up to 50 people at that point. Our facilities can be open with 50% capacity or less. So that's the point at which the group amenities at the parks will open back up. We will start programs such as sports practices, leagues and classes. Councilmember Miller mentioned museums could open. So our Lacey Museum would open at that point at lower capacity. The pools can technically open. So we do utilize the Northeastern Public School pools. And again, there's still some challenges that we have to look into for the swim lessons, but that's, phase 3 is when we could actually allow people into that facility. Smaller special events at that point would be able to be run, ones that we can limit the size. And so, for example, we're looking at maybe drive-in movies so that we can regulate how many people come in and there's still that natural social distancing. Park shelter rentals will be up at that time during phase 3, and then other rentals such as Lacey Community Center and the Jacob Smith House as well. Phase 4 is when the bigger events will be able to come online, again with our 6-foot world, and then sports tournaments would be the other item in that phase 4 category. So that's really all I had. If I could just take a moment though to express gratitude to my to the Parks and Recreation staff and also the Public Works Park Maintenance staff. They've really been great at being flexible and pivoting during this crisis and really being there for the community, even though it might look a little bit different. I also want to thank the city manager for his leadership in guiding us through this emergency. And of course, also Mayor Ryder and the members of our council for their leadership as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jen. That was a lot of really great information. And it's hard, like we've said a couple of times, this is not date driven. So I can only imagine for Parks and Recreation, I know within our own department as well in public affairs, I mean, there's things that are coming later in the year that we would love to begin to plan for, but this phased approach, best case scenario will be, phase 4 in a couple of months, but that is best case scenario. So at a minimum, Governor Inslee has said that there will be 3 weeks in between each phase. However, if numbers show COVID cases going in the wrong direction and an increase in that, then those phases are going to be extended. So, Jen, it is tough. Your department is in a tough position, trying to plan and trying to give answers to our residents who want to know when they can sign their kids up for classes or sports, things like that. We all want to get things back on our calendar, but we just have to hold tight and do the best we can to really do what we can to lower the numbers for COVID. So Scott, did you have anything that you wanted to add, or Councilmember Stedman, did you have something there?
Well, I was going to say, I lived here before, back in 1989, and when me and my family decided we're going to relocate to take over my family's business, the parks, my wife wasn't going to take my word for it, by the way, first of all. So she looked at the school district and she looked at the park system, and that was a selling point. The phenomenal school district, phenomenal parks system, it sells, and and it's very important. It raises the quality of life, so you're not spending your days, most of us, before COVID, we spend 90% of our days at work. So the little time we do get with our family and friends and our neighbors, we want to be good quality time together. And Lacey offers that. And we, so the quicker we could get back to that normal and these services and swim lessons and all that stuff that my kids got to enjoy. And now they're growing almost, I have a senior in high school and a sophomore, and, they get good grades. They live a healthy lifestyle, and it's a lot to do with the city of Lacey. And
yeah.
So the quicker we can get other families back to that side of normal, the better.
Great.
That's something real quick. I think a lot of people don't really realize how expansive the Lacey Park system is, and how much work it is. And Jen and her team do a great job. I think there's close to 30 parks that we have. Is that right, Jen?
Yeah, so we have 35 park properties, but we actually, 26 of those parks are developed park sites.
which is phenomenal for a city of 50,000 people. And keeping that up and running. So I just want to say that, you know, when this does open up, you know, maybe it'll be time for you to explore Lacey a little bit more and see what you actually have access to, because if you look at the parks on the website, there's an entire page of developed parks that you have the opportunity to visit that, you know, now that you've been cooped up for a long time, you finally get some freedom. I hope you guys get out and get a chance to take a look at the parks and see what we're all talking about and what we're all excited about getting back to as a community.
Absolutely.
And I would just add too, to kind of talk about just parks, you know, we were honored last year by Money Magazine by being the 75th best city in the United States. And I think part of that goes back to quality of life. And I think everyone has touched upon that. And, you know, great cities have great parks. We need to remind ourselves that that's a critical element of what makes up a community. And, you know, being in the Northwest, people love to engage the outdoors, and Parks and Rec is a big part of really that quality of life and lifestyle. So we're fortunate to live in a community like Lacey that has those assets.
Couldn't agree more. My family enjoys the parks very regularly. So Jen, thank you for your information and for everything that your team does for our parks programs. So we have about 10 minutes left and we have a number of questions here. So why don't we take some of the questions that have come in, and if you have input for that answer, feel free to just offer that up. So let's see here. So it says, is the Parks Board on hiatus due to COVID?
Oh, that's a good question. So we've actually been asked as directors to only hold meetings that are essential at this time. And so we did actually have a park board meeting just yesterday at 5:30, which is our regular time. It's the first Wednesday of every month, typically, but I don't know for sure. And I shared with the board last night, we don't know if we will actually have a June meeting. We felt that it was essential to have a park board meeting this month because of the impact of COVID on the Parks and Recreation Department, which I just had given the rundown of that, of all those changes. So we wanted to update the park board of what's going on. And so we did feel it was essential to have that meeting, but it was a limited agenda, just like the city council is doing. We're following the same guidelines that they're having, which are essential agenda items only.
Great. Thanks, Jen. Another question says, is there a webpage with all of the parks related COVID information listed?
Yes, our city website, we're updating that on an ongoing basis. So if you go to, it's ci.lacey.wa.us. And then for the parks information, the park and open spaces, if you go to parks and facilities and click on there, well, actually, Jenny, there's a COVID tab, right?
There is. Yeah. So
I'm explaining a longer way to get to it.
You can find it if you just go to the City of Lacey website, and in the upper right-hand corner, there is a orange square, I believe, that says COVID updates. So if you click on that, that will take you to all city-related COVID updates, and it has a lot of community information, not only just here in Lacey, but countywide and statewide. So a lot of resources. Definitely check that out if you need any information regarding COVID.
Just another quick way too, if you just Google the City of Lacey, you'll find the homepage. So you won't have to remember a long www extension.
Yep.
There you go. And also, if you have questions about recreation programs, there is a tab on the city's website that's called recreation programs. So you'll want to go there.
Great. So another question says, Jen, you might be able to speak to this. I mean, I think you answered it, but it's worth mentioning. Can we swim at Long Lake Park this weekend? It's going to be hot.
Right. Good question. No, you shouldn't swim. The park is open. The parking lot will be locked, like we said, to diminish the group sizes. And so if you can imagine people going to swim, that's going to be a group. It's going to turn into a group gathering. And so really with the message of keep moving, it's basically just go for a walk through the park or go for a run or a bike ride. but don't actually go to the park and stay to do anything.
Great. Thank you. I do know that the boat launches have reopened now that fishing is open. So if people are wanting to get out on the water this weekend, you can bring kayaks or probably even floaties and you know, get in at any of the area lake boat launches. All right, and then one more well, we've got a couple more questions. I see one here that is not park related, but I wanted to mention it. It says, I heard the food bank is distributing food at St. Martin's. Looking for more information on that. So that is correct. St. Martin's has been wonderful in partnering up with the food bank and the Thurston County Food Bank to provide a satellite location where our Lacey residents, really residents from anywhere, but it is a nice centrally located spot here in Lacey, can go for their family if they need food. They have boxes of fresh produce and unperishable foods. They have, I believe they even have some meat that they're handing out. So they have a lot of food that they are giving out. One of them was today. It was from 10 to 3. Their next one, I believe they're holding it 2 times a month. So the next one for May is going to be on May 17th. And same time, it's in front of the main staircase at St. Martin's. So for those of you who have not been there, I don't have the address in front of me, but if you drive along Pacific Avenue, it's right there off of Franz Road, or across from Franz Road on Pacific Avenue, and turn in there on the main entrance by the grand staircase. Just drive up. They have everything laid out, a lot of volunteers to help, so they'll direct you in the right direction. And you just pop your trunk and they put the boxes of food in there and you drive off. So super easy and fast and a great resource.
Hey,
Jenny, just real quickly on that, I believe it's May 21st is the second date.
Oh, is it? Thank you.
Yeah. I was going to mention that too, but how awesome is it to live in a community where we have programs like this, where and being rich in nonprofit organizations that do provide services a government can't or shouldn't be doing. It's just another reason why our area is a home and not just a place to live. It's wonderful. We have these things going on all the time, and it's great to see.
Absolutely. Scott, thank you for the correction on that. So May 21st.
Sorry about that.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad that you had the right date. So last question here in our last couple minutes says, is the COVID shutdown affecting any park development or improvement projects? So I know that construction had been shut down for a while, but maybe speaking to any city improvement projects. I don't know if Scott or Jen or one of our council members wants to take that.
Do you want to, Scott, or would you like me to?
No, go ahead, Jen.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say yes, absolutely, it is. Yes, quite a few actually. Just off the top of my head, we had several projects budgeted for 2020 that had been approved, and we will just need to suspend those until further notice and just take a relook at those. So Bush Park playground replacement is one of those. We had talked about doing a trail resurface and basketball court resurface at Wonderwood Park. We had looked at doing some outdoor ping pong. So that's been on pause. We are moving forward with, we had a community outreach project and also the Greg Cuyo Park planning project, unfortunately, has to be paused. It's just not the right time to be doing that project. And also there's the cost savings as well. One that we are definitely moving forward with is the skate park repairs at Rainier Vista Park. And we will be moving forward with the playground at the new depot site. That playground equipment had already been ordered. And so yeah, there were, and maybe city manager wants to speak a little bit more about this one, but several factors involved with those decisions.
Yeah, the Lacey Rotary Club also committed dollars to that project. I believe it was $50,000 to that effort. And again, that was a partnership and investment they wanted to make. And to Jen's point, that the playground equipment had been ordered. And so we are going to complete that project. So that will be done. We also had a fairly sizable turf replacement project at the RAC. And so that continued. And with it's going to be a brand new soccer field surface with synthetic turf. And then the largest baseball field, softball field in the 5 playing field complex is also going to be replaced. So that will actually replace all the synthetic turf at the RAC. So that's a good milestone for that complex, which is very popular. And again, hopefully that will be opened up, in phase 4 and have more activities at that area.
Great.
Hey, Jen, I'd also take this opportunity to plug the mayor as being a really good ping pong player. So it's unfortunate that went away, because I would like to have enjoyed seeing a resident somewhere in the city beat him badly.
Where were the ping pong tables going to go?
Most likely Rainier Vista Park. We hadn't quite drilled down to that exact location, but that was the favored site for that project.
Well, hopefully that's something that's just put on hold and can be revisited. That would be such a great addition to the park.
Absolutely. Yeah. And our staff had reached out to the public to find out interest level, and we got a lot of really good feedback about that.
Oh, so yeah.
We'll be excited once we can finally do that to move forward.
Yeah, that would be, and that's just a great fit for the park. You've already got tennis and racquetball. So ping pong just seems like the next natural decision there. So yeah, that will be something to look forward to for sure. Oh, sorry.
I was just saying, something for everybody. Our park system has to offer in Rex.
Absolutely.
If everybody doesn't mind staying on for an extra minute, maybe we can just cut off questions and answer these last 2 so that people can get the answers they need. Or are you guys all right with that?
Yeah, I mean, one of those questions Jen spoke to a little bit. It says, when will swimming lessons be available again? So I think it's hard to say a specific date right now, but that programming is just kind of on hold for now until we know when things are going to open back up.
So that's going to be like a phase 3 or 4, or so that's going to be a minimum of 6 weeks, because that's when we get to our 5 to 50.
Right.
Well, I think we also need to recognize too, each phase still has some amount of social distancing. And so I think we need to get guidance from our health professionals. And that is one of those activities, especially when you're in water and you're talking about swimming lessons for those that can't swim. That is a close contact activity. There's really no way to separate 6 feet, especially when you're talking about someone's safety. So that is something we're going to have to figure out. We just don't have all the answers yet.
Right. And then the last question, it says, where can I find masks for my family? And does anybody have information on that offhand? I know that there was a group of women they did a lot of sewing for masks, and I can't remember their name right offhand.
I would say John Grantham has, he's been ordering, I want to say through Proforma, his company. And I'm not 100% sure, but you could go to that website or contact that company, and he has a sign-up sheet. And when they hit a threshold of whatever it is, he orders them, and it takes about 4 to 6 weeks to come in. He ordered a bunch for the business community, because when restaurants and stuff open again, or Costco, you have to wear a mask and gloves and such. So a lot of these local businesses are ordering through him. They get a better price, and it's just more expedient that way in delivery and such. And so then when the businesses and the restaurants get to open, they have the supplies they need to do the responsible thing and go forward, not backwards. So.
Yeah, Jeannie, on that one, I think it's a matter of finding maybe your any outlet that potentially could sell an N95 mask. I think it's also just a good reminder, there's a lot of resources on the internet to make an actually homemade cloth mask.
Yeah.
And that also is an effective means to, provide a level of public health safety. We have those at City Hall, just like this. And there, if you have the skill set and a sewing machine, that's a good alternative. Because I think the supplies for N95 and other types of masks are still going to be in short supply, especially as you see the economy start to restart. You're going to see another demand or surge on that. And of course, our health professionals and frontline responders are also having demands for those type of N95 masks also.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there are, like you mentioned, Scott, there's patterns online that people can find if you're able to sew your own. There are a lot of people who are just generously sewing a lot of extra masks and just giving them away. I've seen that a lot on social media and just through different sites. So definitely, if you need something, there are resources available. People can reach out to the City of Lacey, and I can narrow down a couple specific names if they need.
And I think most of these establishments will have those supplies when you go to frequent them. You know, you can take the stuff home with you because they're not going to be able to let the next person use it. So.
Right. Well, with the end of our questions and answers, does anybody have anything that you want to say just before we wrap up and say goodbye?
I would just say how proud I am of our residents and our business community and our city in general. You know, it's difficult. We're into this almost 2 months, and we can see light at the end of the tunnel. So, you know, just keep a good attitude and try to go forward and not backwards.
I want to say thanks to the Lacey City staff who's just been doing an incredible job, from the stimulus to the parks to the front counter to all the, sometimes you don't really see how many full-time hours go into this, but it's a lot. And I think they've been doing a phenomenal job of keeping us running as best they can. So thank you, Scott and Jen and Jenny and all the Lacey staff who work incredibly hard. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Well, I wouldn't mind just mentioning the Lacey community. It is tough. I mean, we're heading into 2 months of COVID-19, sort of stay home, stay healthy. I think everyone has personal stories, but even my family is getting a little bit COVID crazy. And but again, thank you for the community for just being compliant and listening to the social distancing instructions. And I would have to say throughout this, the community's been great in terms of trying to comply with that and just cope and adjust to this new environment that we're all trying to navigate.
Yeah, I agree. And I would just encourage people to support our local businesses as much as you can. There's a lot of places, a lot of restaurants that are open for delivery and curbside pickup. You know, phone call. We try to order from a restaurant once a week and just to support a couple different areas. And I know once we move on to phase 2, where salons are going to open back up, they're just going to be flooded. So I can't wait for that time. So at this point, we are out of time, and I would just really want to say thank you to Councilmember Stedman, Councilmember Miller. Thank you both so much for giving your time and just coming on and connecting with our community. And Jen and Scott, thank you both for your time and expertise and sharing some great info. So if you missed any part of the show, the entire episode will be posted on the City of Lacey YouTube site, as well as our Facebook page. So please go and check it out there. And thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Take care.